After a successful decade run as a feature documentary, Eyes of the Mothman is now a podcast containing bonus information and, for the first time ever, the complete, unedited field interview tapes with eyewitnesses, experts, and those who were directly impacted by the Mothman incidents that occurred in Point Pleasant, West Virginia in 1966 and 1967. Although this podcast is meant to act as a historical record and an archive of the events that transpired, all material contained here is not for reproduction without the written consent by the copyright holder, Redline Studios, Incorporated. Episode 3, Eyes of the Mothman, the podcast. This was our interview with Carolin Harris, longtime Point Pleasant resident, owner of Harris Steakhouse, which was a fixture in the Point Pleasant community. It was a diner, little restaurant on Main Street in Point Pleasant. We filmed in there quite a bit. We filmed her interview in there, and we filmed some B-roll in there. I have really nice memories of interviewing Carolin. She was a huge part of the story and was really a huge part of helping us facilitate our production out there. She had helped us connect with some other interview subjects. Carolin was one of the founders of the Mothman Festival that was still in its early stages when we were out there getting its legs. And she also, her sister, I believe her name was Martha. I could be getting that wrong, but her sister, we were supposed to interview her sister, who had a very interesting Mothman encounter. She was an eyewitness up close. That was something that was supposed to happen. It eventually didn't. We'll get into why it didn't happen. And then also, Carolin, obviously, the biggest thing with her was that we knew going in that her family passed away during the Silver Bridge tragedy. Her husband and, I believe, child both perished on the Silver Bridge. So those are the immediate things that I remember going into that interview. What do you guys remember about Carolin and interviewing her?
I just remember she was very helpful. When we got into town, she was... what can I do to help you guys do this? She introduced us to a lot of people. She was just a really nice lady, very much into, what was happening in the town in terms of like the Mothman Festival. And anytime someone had any kind of question, she told them exactly where to go to get the answers. She was just like a great lady. I liked her a lot. She was just super sweet.
To me, she kind of embodies the kind of person that you find in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. She was kind of old-fashioned. She had like an old beehive haircut, back from the 60s. Once the Silver Bridge collapsed, as you see in the documentary, the town kind of froze. The town kind of was frozen in time. And if you look at pictures of the town in the 1950s, there's nothing that has changed. Like, it's just so much the same. And it almost like it was frozen in time. And it was kind of, I don't know, like I guess I had a kind of judgmental thing about it, coming from New York and over this little town, nothing's going on type of thing. And she embodied that. But then we did the interview and we got into talking about the tragedy of losing her family when the bridge collapsed right before Christmas. And she couldn't even speak. Like, here we are decades later, she couldn't even get 30 seconds into it without becoming emotional to the point where she couldn't speak anymore. And she became a three-dimensional person in front of me as that happened. And I was a little embarrassed about myself, about, being judgmental about her. And she was just this sweet lady that had to go through a lot. And it was all still very fresh and very real. And it's just sad. It was just sad.
Yeah, she was such a nice person, just so welcoming. Like, when you talk to her and even when you interview her, it doesn't feel like you're interviewing a stranger. It feels like you're interviewing your grandma or something. It's just such a familiarity about her that's just so welcoming. And it really is an extension of Point Pleasant. Every time I've been there, I've really never met someone who is like a Point Pleasant local that made you feel unwanted. They might remind you that you stick out as not being a local or from around there, but no one ever makes you feel like you're not welcome there. You just get the sense that, like, if you needed a cup of coffee and had no money, they would go, here you go, and give you something, or they would give you the shirt off their back. Yeah, Carolin, I knew going in that we talked, like she did not really want to be interviewed because she thought we were going to kind of press her about the Silver Bridge incident, and she did not want to talk about that, being as it was so personal. And so I do remember just asking, well, do you mind if we try? And she was like, yeah, we could try. And she just knew it wasn't going to work out well. So we waited till the end of the interview to really get on that subject, which is always like, as you're interviewing someone, you know that's coming. You're like, oh God, I know that's coming. And you're trying to avoid it. And you really don't even want to have to do it. You have to do it because it's like part of what you're doing, if you're doing a good job as a filmmaker and a producer. But at the same time, and we talked about this in our first episode, the look back at making the film, just the idea of, in other scenarios, like if I was working for a network and I had executives looking over me, I know that I would be encouraged very aggressively to like get her to cry. It's great to get someone to cry on camera. That's what we want. I didn't care. I didn't want that. I just didn't need that for the movie. I was more after like facts and evidence and not that I don't want emotion. You just know, you don't need someone to cry on camera to know that they're upset that they lost their family.
No, I mean, I think you did it right. I just remember like, people are, if you knew the story, if you knew that she lost her child and her husband on that bridge and you never asked the question, you'd be like, well, isn't that what we're going to talk about? But the fact that you brushed up against it, not that you're looking for some kind of Barbara Walters interview, but, where people are crying, but it was more than enough to see her not be able to talk about it. It was more than enough to understand that, this was just too much for her.
By the way, I don't think it was her ex-husband and her toddler and the ex-husband's new wife that were in the vehicle.
Oh, I didn't know there was a woman in the car.
I believe when they found them, they found the kid holding the wife's hand.
One fascinating thing about Carolin Harris that didn't make it into the film, that was kind of a behind the scenes thing, is that we were supposed to interview her sister about her encounter with the Mothman. And I just remember her sister was sitting in on our interview with Carolin, and I think she was probably sizing up of like, do I want to do this afterward? And not that it went poor or wrong or anything like that. I remember, it's a little thing, but like, I feel like this is what the value of this podcast is, because like this will never end up in the movie, and it never did. And again, I was there, and when you're somewhere and you're kind of feeling somebody out, again, it's almost like interviewing a murderer or a suspect. Like you kind of, there's an energy, you see how they react, you look at their eyes, you see if they're lying to you, you see if they're not. And I remember talking to Carolin's sister about her Mothman encounter. And she was absolutely, just like you mentioned, Carolin having those fresh memories of the tragedy, how many years after the bridge falling, it was like it happened yesterday. When I was talking to Carolin's sister off camera about her Mothman encounter, I remember the look on her face, like it was absolute pure, like terror, like just terrified. She was scared to the sense of like, to the point of where she was scared to even talk about it off camera, because it was like the idea that talking about it would like maybe bring it back up. Like they always say in the paranormal world, like the more you pay attention to the paranormal, the more it pays attention to you. Or like if you go looking for these things, sometimes you're going to find them and you might not like what you find. And I just remember Carolin's sister talking to her off camera about her encounter. She was absolutely still terrified about whatever she went through. And to the point where that's why she didn't do the interview. She didn't think she could get through it emotionally. And it sounds like bullshit, but I'm just telling you, like, as someone there, I remember talking to her in that diner. She was just still petrified from it. And I remember that look on her face. I see it now. She was absolutely terrified just to even talk about it. So that really resonated with me in terms of, you go out there and one, the little devil on one shoulder is kind of like, oh, maybe this is a hoax. Maybe this is just delusion, or maybe this is a mass hysteria. But then you have those little moments that are like little telling moments where you're like, no, this is a person who said they saw it. And I'm looking her right in the eye, and you could feel the fear off of her and the anxiety, and just the stress to where she's like, it's not worth it. Like, well, I'm not going to get anything out of this. And so you also think of like, are these people making up a story where they want to be on TV and they like, they go, oh, film crew coming in. Like, you think that they would maybe manipulate this or take advantage of it. She wanted no part of it. And she was absolutely terrified. And that still to this day just stayed with me that, it was a tangible thing, a small thing, but it was revealing to me that someone, who saw the Mothman was that scared of it still, how many years later was it?
30 years, 40 years.
Talking about her being like emblematic of Point Pleasant and almost being like the poster of the person that you would meet there. When we were down there filming this, they were, I don't know if you remember, but they were also filming the Matthew McConaughey film, We Are Marshall. They were filming at the same time we were filming this.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I remember. Because there were two film crews in town. One was, Hollywood Matthew McConaughey, and the other was like three of us, making this with nothing.
That's why somebody mistook me for Matthew McConaughey. Now I understand.
It happens. It does happen. And the reason I bring that up is my son, who's 8, is really getting into football, and I'm like, I'm going to show you, I think, a highly underrated football movie, and we watched We Are Marshall. Which I didn't know that story until we were down there and I learned about it. And when you watch that movie, I thought they did an incredibly good job of like painting a picture of people from West Virginia and just their togetherness, their closeness, just even like what they look like, what they sound like. And so like when I watch that movie, I think of Carolin Harris because I'm like, she could put her in that movie and she would fit in perfectly.
Absolutely.
They did a great job of representing accurately people from that region. And it is such a distinct, it's hard to even place because it's not like, it's not so much an accent. It's just like, it's just how they carry themselves. And
well, it's also, people treat college football around there differently. Where's the professional basketball team in West Virginia? Where's the professional baseball team? Where is the, the hockey team? There isn't any. They just have football. And that's why, you talk about like Friday Night Lights, high school, even high school football. It's big time. It's big time. And so they have their mountains, they have their activities, and they have their football. And so they really embrace it. It's weird because I remember we were like, oh, can we fly to somewhere? We wanted to take a flight somewhere in order to make the production go faster. Like the closest place is Cincinnati, Ohio. You gotta travel like 3.5 hours in order to get to a major airport. Yeah,
it's remote. Wherever we wanted to go. I know there's Charleston and Huntington, but they didn't have the flights to where we wanted to be. Yeah, you're remote and you're out there. And it's just a certain part of the country that also most people don't go to. No one goes, hey, let's go to Huntington, West Virginia on vacation this year.
Right.
So a lot of people don't get to experience this area. That was one of the most fun things I enjoyed about the film is that nothing, I would have never gone to this part of the country if it wasn't for this. And I'm really glad I did because it's almost like a little best kept secret, like almost heaven. It makes a lot more sense when you go out there and you're like, there's a simplistic beauty about that area. And Carolin really captured all of that. And, I'm glad. I know she's remembered in the town in a number of ways, and her establishment is no longer there. But that also, last thing I'll touch on is just that place, that was kind of like an interesting hub. That's where locals would hang out. I remember them saying like, there were a couple people who are, I don't know if they were homeless or they were definitely struggling, but she would feed them and for literally for free and things like that. So that's just the type of person she was. Mm. I remember really enjoying interviewing Carolin and being there with her and being able to spend time with her. Hopefully, everyone listening enjoys our raw interview from back then.
All right. So before we get started, I'll just go over some of them.
Okay, I was going to tell you.
Just talk to me as if we're just having a conversation. In terms of looking at me, I guess. Just you can look at me. Just don't look at the camera.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask you a bunch of questions.
Okay.
When I ask a question, when I use this later on, my question won't be there. So if I say like, how you doing today? And if you say good, later on, it'll just say good. So that kind of is, what if you say, I'm having a great day. Kind of like if you reiterate my question in your answer, that helps later, so that way people know what you're talking about. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's just like I say, how's the weather? And you say beautiful. That's different than if you say, the weather's beautiful today, because then we know what you're talking about. Okay. So if I'll ask you a bunch of stuff. If anything doesn't make sense, just let me know. We can do this a bunch of times, not like it's live or anything. So if you need a minute to think for your answer, if you start to answer and then you don't really like where you're going with it, you want to start again, it's totally cool. You can do that. I might ask you the same question more than once. It just means that I might try to get like a different answer or looking for something different. It doesn't mean that your answer was wrong or anything. It's just I might ask you a couple different times the same question, just to get different options, or we might change an angle or something. And if there's anything I ask you that you don't know, or it doesn't apply to you, you don't want to talk about, or something like that, just let me know. Okay.
Okay.
Real casual, kind of laid back kind of thing.
Okay.
Okay. So I think we're ready to start. Okay. First, just say if you could just say your name and then spell it for me.
Okay. My name is now.
Yes.
My name is Carolin Harris. CarolInHarris.
Okay, and for like your title, do you want me to put owner of Carolin Steakhouse, or do you want to put should I put resident Point Pleasant? How would you like me to title you?
Owner and operator of Harris's Steakhouse.
Okay, great. Okay, Carolin. So we were just talking a minute ago. You were telling me you've been here for a long time. Can you tell me a little bit about? I want to talk about the TNT plant area before the Mothman. Prior to the Mothman sighting there. Tell me a little bit about the TNT plant and why you went there.
Okay, when I first moved into Point Pleasant and got acquainted with the TNT area, it was like country out of town. We went there a lot. I learned to drive there, got my driver's license. We picnicked, camped, mainly went fishing. It was somewhere you could walk and just get out in the country. And a lot of the teenagers, though, they drag raced because it was a nice road. It was off the main highway, and they thought they were secure.
Okay.
But
good. So one thing that I guess would draw kids there was the privacy and drag racing and just kind of a local hangout. Is that right?
it was a local hangout. It was a party place for a lot of kids. They had a lot of places they could all get together, a bonfire, a lot of times a bonfire cake party. They did a lot of running their rods off to see who had the best car. Sometimes they had officers to direct them, but they would have did that for them if they'd let them know when they were going to. But that was always a big drag strip because of the way the road was made.
I'm going to ask you the same question again. Can you try to, this time when you answer, say, start with, the TNT plant was?
Oh, okay.
So just tell me a little bit about the TNT plant before Mothman. Why did kids go there? What did they do there?
Okay, the TNT plant was a regular hangout for teenagers for their drag strip, and it was off the main highway. And it was privacy, and it was a nice area to camp or picnic. Or the main thing that we did was fished. They had lots of ponds, and then like I said, I learned to drive there because it was off the main highway, and a lot of people did. A lot of kids learned to back in and park because they had places there made up where you could do that.
So I guess before Mothman was spotted there, it was kind of a place that a lot of people it was a fun spot to go into a degree. It was a place that no one was afraid to go there. It was kind of like a place that people kind of welcomed to visit, I guess. Can you talk before start with before Mothman TNT plant was, just so later on we can say the difference.
Yeah, before the Mothman sighting, the TNT area was just a real laid back, real comfortable, that no one was nervous about going there. They, like I said, camped out all night. They sat around at night and talked and discussed what they did at school and about their girlfriends and boyfriends and just family things. But after the Mothman was sighted, it was a little bit different atmosphere up there.
Good. So tell me about the TNT plant today. After the Mothman, it's been a long time. Is the TNT plant area still creepy today? Does it still have like a strange energy about it? How is it how is it now with the passage of time since the Mothman? What's the feeling there now? How do people look at it now?
The TNT area now, the atmosphere is a little different. It was sort of neglected for a while, and that wasn't too much thought about. And then when the movie come back out, and there's a lot of traffic up there now, and it is a lot of ghosty feelings when people go up there. They're always looking for Mothman. It's really been going strong in the last 3 years, I'd say. You can't never go up there if you don't see out-of-state cars. People looking, searching. Everybody's different. Everybody has a different opinion and looking for something different. But everybody looks for Mothman.
Right. And would you say that, I guess maybe local people still, I talked to, when I was here a couple months ago, I was just asking some of like the younger people today who weren't here when all of this had happened, is the TNT plant still scary to you? And most of them had said, yeah, it's pretty scary up there. So would you say that local teenagers today, think the TNT plant area still is kind of has a creepy atmosphere to it? I guess a lot of people say, well, it is dark, can't see anything, so it is a little scary. Do you think that's kind of the mass feeling about it around town? That's still a little scary up there?
I would say the TNT area right now is probably as spooky and scary to people as it ever has been, because there's so much going on with the Mothman now, and different things is sighted. UFOs and different creatures has been sighted, and there's so much talk and much atmosphere about it. And the generation now, yeah, a lot of them I don't think you would get to go up there and stay. And for one thing, it's a lot more rugged looking than it was earlier. Now it's all grown up because some of it's private owned. Whenever I was growing up, it was all National Guard cap. So, but now it's real rugged, and a lot of people like it that way, and a lot of them, it's scary to them.
Cool. Okay, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions we did again, just because we changed stuff. I won't do over them a million times. We'll just go through them real quick. So just tell me a little bit about the TNT plant before Mothman. What drew people there? Why did teenagers go to hang out there?
The TNT plant before the Mothman appeared was quite a hangout for teenagers. They liked the privacy, no one bothering them up there. Everybody ganged up. They could do their drag racing. They could talk about what happened the week before or what they were going to do. They could have a bonfire keg party, or they could have a weenie roast, or just whatever. It was entertaining for the teenagers. That was their spot.
The TNT plant today, the local teenagers and stuff, a lot of them I've talked with still said it's pretty scary out there. Do you think it's still kind of scary, still has a little bit of creepy energy? You had said you thought maybe it's even, creepier today. Tell me about that a little bit.
I would say today the TNT area is probably just as spooky, or maybe even a little bit more spookier, because it's more rugged. It's more grown up. There's more vines, things you don't see that as far away as you did before, because before that, it was National Guard cap. Everything was superb, which I thought was beautiful. But now the Mothman people like it it is now. Everything is real rugged, real grown up, real viney, and scary.
I'll ask you one more thing, just to get another soundbite of it. Before Mothman, kids went to the TNT plant to drag race, to hang out. It was like a local hangout. Can you just tell me that for someone who doesn't know what the TNT plant was?
Before Mothman, the TNT was a regular hangout for teenagers, and adults too. A lot of the adults went to fish, and a lot of them, and some people hunted there. But a lot of them went to camp. They went to picnic. A lot of them walked there just for exercise. Most of the kids went for just a big place to get together. Nobody bothered them. But the main thing then was their drag races. They could do that up there. It was off the main highway.
All right, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Cornstalk.
Okay, I'm not real familiar with him, but
that's okay. A lot of these things, you don't have to be an expert on stuff. I'm just looking for actually your personal opinion or what you know about it. So that's okay. Tell me a little bit about the legend of the curse of Chief Cornstalk. What's the buzz around that?
I always thought the reason that Chief Cornstalk was supposed to put a curse on Point Pleasant was because he came to warn the settlers that there was going to be an Indian attack, and they locked him in the stockade, and then during the battle, he got killed. But I also heard that was because that they had moved his burial place, and that is bad with Indians. If you move their burial place, then that's their sacred place. So that's why he was supposed to put a curse on Point Pleasant. I guess we had bothered him 2 different ways.
And for someone who just kind of stumbles into town that doesn't know anything about the curse, can you tell me a little bit about that, like as if I've never heard this, as if you're telling it to me for the first time?
Yeah, people around Point Pleasant believe that there is a curse on Point Pleasant because it's not prospered as much as they thought maybe it should have been. They think that because we let Chief Cornstalk get killed, and when he come to help us, to warn us, that is the reason different things has happened, like maybe had something to do with the bridge fell, the jail was blew up. Every time something happens, I'll say, well, it's the curse of Cornstalk. And I normally say, no, that's the curse of the living people.
Do a lot of the townspeople believe in the curse of Cornstalk? And if so, what type of things are blamed on him?
Yeah, most people you talk to, there's a few that doesn't, but most of them do believe in a curse of Cornstalk, or they talk about it. They say they do. Every time something happens, they'll say that's the reason. Of course, the curse of Cornstalk, if we have a fire, if something blows up, if something bad happens, or we have a bad flood, we have bad weather, or everything that happens, he gets blamed for it, whether he's got anything to do with it or not.
And would you say majority of the townspeople believe in the curse of Cornstalk?
I would say more people in Point Pleasant believe in the curse of Cornstalk than not. I'd say more of them do believe in it.
I'm going to ask you kind of a combination of those 2 questions. Do the majority of people living in Point Pleasant believe in Cornstalk? And if so, why? Why do they believe it? And if you want to go into, because there's been so many floods and fires and things like that.
Most of the people around Point Pleasant do believe in the curse of Cornstalk. I think it's because there's been so many different things happening here, and probably a little bit close together. We've had several things to happen because they said, well, it ain't going to prosper, and these things happen because of the curse of Cornstalk, like fires and floods and things that happen out of the ordinary.
Right. That's good. All right, let's talk about the Mothman a little bit.
All right.
Is that light okay, or do you want to? Which one? Let's just get ahead. Okay. Can you lean forward just a bit? That's perfect. Just the reflection, so I don't get reflection in your glasses. If you can just try to keep forward a little bit, that would help the light better. So can you tell me what the Mothman looks like? Can you just give me like a list of physical characteristics? You don't have to kind of answer it formally. You can just, like, if you were giving me like a laundry list of what Mothman looks like, wings, scales, fur. Can you tell me what some of those are?
Myself, I've never got to see the Mothman, but I wish I had him. Maybe I wouldn't if I did. I've talked to several different people that was eyewitnesses, and from what I have picked up, he's a large, enormous bird with gray feathers, with a big wingspan, tremendously big wingspan, big, broad shoulders, and had a wrinkled up face like a man that with no feathers on it, with big, ugly, huge eyes, red eyes.
For the Mothman story, one thing that's interesting is that it wasn't just like one person saw the Mothman one night and that was it. It seems to be that there's like a lot of things that if you trace the sightings of it, they seem to correlate with one another. So it almost makes it a little more believable. It seems like it's more credible because you can almost document things. And some of the things I'm talking about is that there's some obvious connections between all of the stories. Like there was first that there was a graveyard sighting in Clendenin that one night where people had saw a flying man fly over them at night, and then right after that, Newell Partridge's dog goes missing, and it's like in the same area, same direction. And then a few days after that, the TNT plant happens where Linda Scarberry and her friends are chased. So it's kind of like, it's not just one person on a Tuesday seeing it. Someone sees it in this town Monday, and it's this town Tuesday. There's a lot of stories that connect. So can you talk a little bit about that? Not just frequency, but, a connection of all of them. And then it seems to be that they're all the same pieces of a large puzzle.
Yeah, the Mothman is not just in one place. He's been spotted several different places. And the more people you talk to, the more you can follow his route where he's been. And the more that people tells their story, then someone else will come up and tell you the story. Well, I want to tell you what I seen in this night. And if you listen to their stories, you can almost track the way he went or went back to and about what his routine was. he wasn't just in one spot, but he normally came back to the TNT area, like that was his home. But he was seen across the river, Cheshire, flying back towards the TNT area. He was seen several different places, and different people pretty well held the same story about what he looked like. Everybody about gave me the same description of him.
Right. And can you talk a little bit, I guess, maybe when the first, it was kind of spotted before, weeks before, months before, but the big sighting was the Scarberry event. But then, things started to emerge too, where it's like, well, then, someone comes forward and says, well, I saw that same thing 2 days before. And then someone says, I saw that same thing a week before. You talk about how that started to happen, and then people started to kind of like put all these clues together, and it kind of seems to be all, these little stories seem to all fit into one big kind of event.
I think the biggest thing whenever the spotting of Mothman in our area was whenever Linda and her fiance at the time and the other couple that was there spotted it, which they had spotted it and didn't want to say anything about it, didn't think people would believe them, and went back to verify it, I understand. And it really scared them. But then after they turned it into the police department and the sheriff's department and went to check it out, you get to talking, and then there was some other people said, well, yeah, I seen that 2 days before this. And then someone else would pop up and say, well, I seen something like that, but I was afraid to say anything about it. I was afraid they'd laugh at me or say, what was you drinking or what was you smoking? And there was, I guess there was a few people had spotted it before that the two couples was in the TNT area that had spotted it. And the more it went, the more it was telling their story that wouldn't say anything about it before.
When this first started, maybe people thought this was like a one-time thing, but then other stories started to emerge. More people started to see it. And it started to appear as if these were all parts of a larger event that was starting to take place.
Okay, now.
Okay, yes, you can go ahead.
Okay, when this first started, people thought it was just going to be one big thing, and wasn't sure that it was going to be true. And whenever the couples first said that they had sighted it, but it wasn't over there. It had been sighted at different places at different times, and the more you talk to people, the more you found out that it wasn't just in one spot, and that wasn't just a one-time thing. It had happened several different times, several different places. And we don't know if it's the same Mothman, but as far as we know, it was.
Good. Tell me, the Mothman eyes is something that's always talked about throughout cases and cases. Can you tell me a little bit about the eyes of the Mothman?
The Mothman eyes, everybody that has talked to me and told me, and my sister was one of them, that when it came up over their bonfire cake party, that it wasn't glary like an animal eye. It was red, it looked like red bloody eyes like on Jeff's book. And that wasn't the only ones that told me that. I've had 3 or 4 different couples to tell me that had come encounter with it. It had big red eyes, not glary, not like animal eyes, but big red eyes. That's what made it different. It was the eyes. When they seen the eyes, then they were out of there. They didn't wait around to see the body.
Okay, great. That was cool. I'm going to ask you the same question and stick to those specifics. That would be great if you could tell me they were bloody, they didn't reflect, and that's what everyone remembers. So again, just tell me a little bit about the eyes of the Mothman. What do people talk about when they talk about the eyes of the Mothman?
When people tell me about seeing the Mothman in person, I never got to do that. But they said whenever they seen the eyes, because I questioned them about what did the body look like, they said anything we seen was whenever we seen the eyes, that we didn't hang around to see the body. But they said the thing that was so different was that it was bloody, like big bloody red looking eyes. It didn't glare like animal eyes. And that wasn't only one person told me that. That was 4 different people had told me about the big red bloody looking eyes. It wasn't no glare to it like animal eyes.
Good. So, you told me before about the TNT plant. It's kind of this popular hangout. Kids go there to kind of, have fun and privacy and drag race and do things like that. After the Mothman spotted, some people were scared to go there. But then actually it started to attract people too. Some people went there looking for it. I even heard stories about hunters went up there waiting for it and trying to kill it.
Guns,
Can you tell me about it? So after the Mothman, what's the TNT plant now?
Now the TNT plant is different. Like I said, it's really rugged. It's all growed up.
Start with sorry to interrupt you, but just keep going. As opposed to now, like present. Let's talk about like Mothman in the months after the TNT plant in the months after Mothman is spotted. tell me what the TNT plant area, the vibe is. What's the reputation the TNT plant has now in the months after the Mothman sighting?
The TNT plant now, after the spotting of Mothman, compared to what it was then, I think most of the people that go there now are people that's looking for Mothman or looking for ghosts and spooky things. You don't see very many, if you're not into Mothman or you're not looking to be scared or something spooky, the hangout's not there like it was. I don't think the kids hang out there as much. Now, there is a few that goes in the igloos because you can go in and shut the door and they can do their jam boxes and holler and scream and yell and no one can hear them. But there's not the young hangout that used to be there all the time before the Mothman was spotted. A lot of people won't even go close. A lot of people will not go to the TNT area that used to. I hear lots of different people say, I'm not going there.
How old were you when Mothman was spotted there? Do you remember?
I was probably 21.
So do you remember that? Do you remember, not so much, the Mothman event happening, but do you remember just the kind of change in perspective of, TNT plant is, this kind of place to go fish and have fun. Do you remember that kind of transformation of, well, now it's this kind of place that people are afraid to go to, or if they are going there, they're looking for the Mothman. Tell me a little bit about what it was like to be here then when that happened and what were people going there for now?
Well, now,
yeah, in terms of now, meaning the November, December, January 1966.
The TNT area is completely, I'd say that the atmosphere is completely different after the spotting of the Mothman than it was before the Mothman, because there was no relaxation when you go up there. When you went up there, you were looking for the Mothman. You were looking for something scary. It's tense. People were tensed. I know that we went up there looking for Mothman, but that's what we went for. We didn't go up to fish or to picnic or to hunt. It was all a different ball game after that. It was going looking for Mothman or something different.
Can you also include, that people were also looking to hunt for it too now? Can you include that in your answer?
Okay. Now people go to the TNT area mainly just to look for Mothman or to hunt for him. It's not the atmosphere that it used to be. And they're looking for the igloos in case he might be holed up in the igloos because the North Power Plant's not there now. So they know his habitat is in a different place.
Do you remember what it was like here? I mean, I heard it was kind of like a frenzy of people, kind of, Mothman spotted, and it kind of caused a lot of controversy. People were questioning if it was good or evil. Was it an angel? Was it a demon? Did it separate the town a bit? People who believed in it and who didn't back in 1966. Can you tell me about what the feeling was? What were people thinking about then?
When Mothman was sighted in 66, things got a little quieter around here. People stayed in at night. They didn't come out. They didn't let their children out to play. And there was a lot of controversy about, was he an angel appeared? I had heard several people in church say if an angel appeared, you would be scared. Was he a demon? Or was he sent here to do something bad? Or was he sent here for a good omen? But people didn't let their kids out at night. I know my mom didn't let my niece and nephew out at all. Because he could pick them up and carry them away, they were afraid of. And you were just cautious. It was quiet. It was like not the loud atmosphere. Things were a little quiet. People stayed in more for a while. Took them a while to get over it.
And when Mothman spotted, once again, people start bringing up Chief Cornstalk. Can you talk a bit about that? Once Mothman spotted, kind of, the rumors start to float around again about old Chief Cornstalk's curse. And is he again, blamed for that? Can you tell me a little bit about that, how that happened?
When the Mothman was spotted, I hear more about Chief Cornstalk now than I did then. I hear more that was a part of it, that Cornstalk and the Mothman was working together that caused things to happen. The curse of Cornstalk caused Mothman to be here and to do this. I hear more about it now than I did when it was first spotted. And of course, maybe people were talking about thinking that's what was going on.
Right. Along with kind of everything weird or unusual that happens, soon after comes, the Cornstalk remembrance. It's something that stayed here so long. Can you tell me specifically about Mothman? Once Mothman spotted again after it's been around a little bit. Again, people start to wonder, is Chief Cornstalk related to this? And is he blamed for Mothman? Again, can you tell me a little bit about that?
After Mothman was spotted and different things had happened, and then people started debating, was Cornstalk to do with this too? Was that connected? There was a lot of discussion about that.
After the Mothman spotted, and it started to become, frequent, spotted, quite frequently all the time after those first initial sightings. It went on for a long time. When that started to happen, a lot of people, there was tons of rumors and people were speculating what it was, what it wasn't. At that time, there was a lot of professors at, local universities here who tried to say, the Mothman, it's just a sandhill crane. It's just a giant species of bird. Even though I know you didn't witness it yourself, but you've known people that have witnessed it, and your sister being one. And you've had a lot of firsthand experience with people that have had direct experience with the Mothman. For something like that to be suggested by someone, a lot of people I've talked to, they say it's almost like insulting for someone to say that. It's like, I know what a bird looks like. I know what a crane looks like. For people that have seen the Mothman, when they hear these professors, when that happened, when people were trying to pass it off as a rare species of bird, is that an insult for people that actually witnessed Mothman?
People that see Mothman with their own eyes is really offended whenever someone says, that's just a sandhill crane. But people that say that haven't seen it. The people that had eyewitnesses to it knew that it was a much bigger bird, had much broader shoulders, and was just completely different species altogether. But if you haven't seen it yet, you can make those comments. And I think the ones that did make the comments hadn't seen it because it was completely different than a sandhill crane or any other bird that we know of in our area.
And is that a bird are you familiar with that type of bird? Is that like a pretty widespread species of bird like in this area of West Virginia?
The sandhill crane is not real popular here. I don't think, not that many spotted, but there is some in the TNT area. Yeah. When you go out to around the ponds, there is some of them there. But they're a skinny shouldered bird.
Yeah, and I guess, I've noticed West Virginia is a very vast environment. There's plenty of wildlife. So people that are here, they're hunters. They're people that fish. They're people that know wildlife. So with that in mind, people that have seen the Mothman are people that are hunters. They're people that, are from West Virginia. West Virginia is filled with all species of bird. So people know when they see a crane and when they don't. So when, it almost gives them an expert opinion. When they see something that breaks that, and these are people that are familiar with these species of bird. Can you tell me a little bit about, native West Virginia people? They're hunters, they're fishers, they know wildlife. So when they see they see the Mothman and know it doesn't fit those characteristics of the bird, they have that kind of superior knowledge.
Right. Most of the people in West Virginia are hunters. That is what they do. That used to be their source of life. And whenever they see, the ones that see Mothman, they know that was not no bird that's originally in our area, because they know their species. They know what a sandhill crane is. They know what other birds are and how big they are and how small they are. And but that's the ones that make the comments probably haven't seen it yet, because it was so much bigger and taller and big, broad-shouldered, and with the different eyes, the big, red, bloody-looking eyes, not like a bird eyes.
This podcast is a companion piece to the original feature-length documentary film from 2011 of the same title. If you're enjoying this podcast, we encourage you to see the film that started it all by visiting www.eyesofthemothman.com.
Can you talk to me a little bit about life after a Mothman sighting? I know you, again, didn't see the Mothman yourself, but, just from being friendly and familiar with people that have. A lot of people say that the after effects are almost worse than the sighting itself. People had different reactions. It's kind of stayed with them a long time. People had nightmares. People even had physical kind of things happen to them with their eyes or with their skin. Can you tell me a little bit about that for someone who doesn't know any bit about that? That actually, a lot of people say that, seeing the Mothman isn't the worst part of it. It's the after effects that come with it and what some of those are.
Some of the people who've seen the Mothman had a little problem with it, not only physically. Of course, a lot of them had some red eyes, like infected eyes, maybe like pink eye, it looks sort of like. But emotionally, the ones that seen the Mothman had a little trouble dealing with it. I guess at night it would be scary if you was going to bed and you'd seen that, wondering if it was going to come towards you again. There was a lot of them that doesn't want to talk about it, and some of them won't talk about it. But they had a lot of problem with it. Probably if I seen a Mothman big as he was, I may have had a problem with it too. I think I wanted to see it, but maybe I didn't.
Yeah. Great. I'm going to ask you the similar question. Whereas when people first hear about someone who saw the Mothman, right away they think, the scariest part must have just been coming in face to face with the Mothman. They don't realize that actually the more traumatizing, the more long-lasting, bothersome effects were actually the after effects of what has come with the Mothman. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, I think people doesn't realize what some of the people that seen the Mothman with their own eyes. I don't think some of the people realize what trauma that was, because a lot of them had a real problem dealing with it. And I think after they seen the Mothman and dealing with it later was worse than the original sighting of running into him face to face.
Okay, so in a lot of similar cases and instances like the Mothman, many times it's kind of, someone will see something far off in the sky and it lasts like 10 seconds and then it's gone. And, people tell the story and it gets popular. But Mothman's really different because, it's not one person seeing one thing far away and that's it. It's it's tons of people, hundreds of people over the course of an entire year, not only seeing the Mothman, but seeing it 10 feet away, lasting for 10 minutes. Can you tell me a little bit about this? So that kind of separates the Mothman from these other things. And I think it makes it more, acceptable and believable because it's not, someone misinterpreting a star as a UFO. It's people, hundreds of people, respectable people, daily for a year during 66, seeing the same thing for a long period of time, very close to them.
I think seeing the Mothman and spotting it was a lot different than your UFOs because the UFOs was something you were guessing at, something you wasn't sure if you seen it or seen a star. But when people seen the Mothman, they knew that's what it was. There was no mistaken or nothing else looked just like it or nothing that could take its place. They knew that they were looking at a Mothman. Of course, not one, but lots of other people seen it. So it wasn't just one or two story. It was several different people in several different areas, different families, and in different towns.
What makes us different is that there were many sightings lasting for long periods of time and at very close distance. Can you tell me a little bit how, the majority of Mothman sightings are very close distance and lasting a very long time and seen by many people?
What makes the Mothman sightings different is there were several people seen it and it was very close together. And it was like they sort of run a pattern. And it wasn't too far away. It wasn't like one state to another. And there was real close sightings. So they knew it was the same Mothman that they were spotting.
And a lot of people that saw the Mothman, it was all walks of life. Police officers, everyday people, politicians. Tell me about the variety of people that saw the Mothman.
There was a lot of people saw the Mothman that was really reliable. It wasn't just like someone was maybe out in the TNT area having a short beer or something. It was different people, probably every walks of life in Mason County, like lawyers, police officers, even people that went to church had seen it and questioned what it was. So it wasn't just someone half crazy seen Mothman. It was reliable people, reliable sources, and all different types of people.
One thing I think that's kind of maybe, I don't know if annoying is the right word, but it's kind of, the Mothman is kind of like a mystery that's never been solved. Like no one really, it's kind of, we're unsure, like were all these things connected? Were they not? It looks like they were. If this whole thing could be solved tomorrow by means of religion or science or the unknown, would you care as long as this kind of gets solved, as long as there's some kind of answer? As long as there's something that brings closure to this? Like are people looking for that, still today? Are they still kind of looking for closure to the Mothman?
It's freezer.
Oh, freezer.
Can I move?
Is that hardwired?
All you have to do is unplug it.
Oh, okay. Can we do that?
Yeah. Can I move?
Yes, sure. I was talking to you about closure.
I'm not sure if the people's looking for closure to find out what Mothman really was or to see if they would like for it to be science, if they would like for it to find out exactly what it was, I think they'd be disappointed. If they really found out, that would take all the mystery out of it. If they found out what it really was. I'm sure there's some would like to know, but I think there's a lot of them that they would be disappointing. There wouldn't be that mystery out there. They wouldn't be hunting for it.
All right, that was interesting. Can you tell me that one more time? Just that you think part of the interest of the story is that it's unknown, the answer, and that actually a lot of people probably would be disappointed. Just remember to lean forward a little bit too.
Okay.
Thank you. Tell me a little bit about that. If there was an answer, if the answer to this came out tomorrow, how it might disappoint people, because that's part of the fun of Mothman and the mystery.
If the answer would come out tomorrow about what Mothman really was, or who he really was, or what it was, I think there would be a lot of people disappointed because there wouldn't be that mystery there anymore. They wouldn't be excited looking for it. And some of them probably would be happy, but I'm sure there'd be more that was disappointing.
Now let's move on to some UFOs.
Okay.
You have an interesting perspective because you were here for, you've lived in Point Pleasant for a while, and you were here when that, when all this was going on. So, you remember, when the UFOs started to be spotted? A lot of people don't realize that that's another part of the story, that there actually, aside from just the Mothman sightings, there's actually a good amount of UFOs that were seen on a nightly basis. Can you just tell me what it felt like to be around town when these things started to happen? What were people talking about? Did they start to forget about Mothman, and now the new attention is kind of these UFOs once they start popping up?
When Mothman was sighted around here, I think the UFOs were more popular starting off than, because the theory of John Keel was that Mothman may have came out of the UFOs. That was what he was researching. There was a lot of UFOs spotted in this area. People watched night after night, watching for it, and spotted a lot of them. And I never believed in UFOs. I thought it was just something that people was looking for something to do until one landed in my brother's backyard. And I knew then that they were true. There really was. Of course, we're not the only people, not the only planet that has people. But there was a lot of UFOs in this area. In fact, we're pretty sure there was a UFO went over 2 years ago. We were getting ready for the Halloween trail, and one went over out the Riverfront Park. Do you remember what it was like around town when all of a sudden, what happened? Take me back to that time where, all of a sudden it's like, now people start to see these things in the sky. Can you tell me, what was going on in 1966? These lights. Yeah. In 66, whenever the UFOs first started coming around, people did a lot of night watching to see what they could see in the skies. They had a lot of telescopes, the ones that could get their hands on anything that could look closer. That was the great discussion in G.C. Murphy's store when everybody ganged in the food counter there to talk about it. And all your restaurants and different places, they were talking about it. They seen this object in the sky, and they seen this different thing in the sky. And then that's where they thought Mothman may have came from.
What kind of things were people seeing? What was kind of the standard UFO? What were people seeing in the skies?
They had came down close. People had seen the UFO itself, not just the light, but they had seen some of the UFOs itself. They came down. I understand there's no sound. They came down to land and took off just as fast, but there was tremendous, really, really bright lights. The lights you just couldn't look at.
Can you talk to me a little bit more about that? Can you, as opposed to just seeing lights, people are actually seeing structures. Is that right?
Yeah.
Can you tell me?
Instead of just seeing lights in the skies like a lot of people described, it was they hadn't came close enough to see the structure. But mainly on the structure, what you see is the form of it because the lights were all over it. That's what my brother said. And they were all over. You could see what a structure was by the lights, but they were so ungodly bright that you couldn't see what was behind that or who or if there was any living person on there.
What happened? What did your brother say?
He said just by the time it landed, it just drifted up and took off just as easy as it landed, real quiet, no sound.
Did you see it? Or?
No, I didn't get to.
Aside from Mothman, people started seeing these UFOs in the sky, and eventually people started to wonder if they were related.
At the time Mothman was here, there was a lot of UFOs in the sky, and some people thought there was a connection. never did prove out, but a lot of people thought there was a connection, that was maybe where the Mothman came from. Maybe he came in on a UFO and pushed out, or don't know if when they came back, if they come back to pick up or to drop off. No one's ever seen close enough to see if anything got out or got on, or why they just came down and went right back up. But that was the story of several different people. They came down to almost to land and went right back up.
And where were they seen most? I heard that they were seen. Most people spotted UFOs over the Ohio and in the TNT plant areas. Is that right?
There was some spotted in the Leon area and out on Leon Baden Road. Some people that was telling me about it that was out there quite frequently.
And that's where the majority of the sightings happened, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Around in the Mason County area and in Ohio, but out on Leon Baden.
I want to ask you some questions about Mary Hyre.
Okay.
Remember her?
Yes.
Mary, during the time of Mothman and UFOs, she had kind of become a shoulder to lean on for people in the community who were seeing these things and experiencing them. Can you just tell me a little bit about her and how she played a key role in this story?
Mary Hyre was really interested in the UFOs and the Mothman. She was a newspaper reporter, knew everybody in town, and was a real friend to people. She toured around, rode a lot with John Keel when he was here. She also rode a cruiser with my first husband. He was a police officer on a midnight shift. She had a lot of experiences at night and a lot of information. Really interested in it. I was shocked that she was so dedicated to it.
She had kind of become the shoulder to lean on in the community for people experiencing these strange things. Is that right?
When all this was going on, a lot of different things happening. Mary Hyre was always around and to listen to what people had to say, to make them feel better, to try to comfort them and try to give them some answers. She was a shoulder for people to lean on. She was a swell person, well liked in the area, real highly respected.
What type of things would people call and talk to Mary for? What would they come seek her out for? What were some of the things that they would talk to her about? What type of reports would people file with her? What type of happenings and occurrences? What would they come to her with?
Well, Mary Hyre was over the Athens Messenger, and she did some writing on the UFOs and the Mothman. And different people would contact her to tell her their little stories, what they had seen or heard, and a lot of times to pick her mind to see what she knew, because they just wanted answers. They were sort of nervous. Everybody was sort of nervous atmosphere at that time.
Can you list for me, some examples of what people would seek out Mary Hyre for to tell their story, UFOs and kind of ghostly happenings and Mothman? Can you kind of list some of those? What would people give me a list of some of the things people would come to get some advice and talk to Mary Hyre about?
People that called Mary mainly to tell their story, what they had seen and heard, to ask her what she knew, and that could add to questions that they had, and to listen to what they had to say, because they knew that she was out there searching, and she had some different answers, and of course she did do the newspaper and had a lot of contact with a lot of different people. They felt like that she knew more than they did.
She was somebody that people trusted, because this is kind of a touchy subject. So once she had kind of established this prominent role, it was kind of, I guess, comfortable for people because they had this kind of extraordinary experience, and I'm sure they were hesitant to talk about it. But I guess it was nice she was kind of that figure to come talk to and be comfortable with. Is that right?
People was real comfortable with talking with Mary Hyre about things. If they wanted it confidential, it would be. If they wanted it told, they would let her know that. Because she was just that type person. If you needed her to keep it quiet, she did. I'd love to have Mary's records. She had all kinds of records. She had rooms and rooms of files on where she done research. And
really?
I figure they just dumped them when she died. Well, I asked her nephew. He comes in here every day, and he doesn't know.
Oh, really?
And she didn't have any children. Scotty had already died. I was just curious to where they were.
Still talking about Mary a bit. Aside from Mothman sightings, UFOs in the sky, people also reported a great deal of things like hearing odd noises, beeps, problems with phones, televisions, electrical disturbances, and problems in the community. Can you tell me about some of those things that were happening to people? What were they reporting to Mary? Not aside from Mothman and UFOs, what were some of these other things that were being reported to Mary?
A lot of things people called Mary to talk to her about was to see if she had experienced the same thing. They were having trouble with their phones. The TVs didn't pick up. They heard a lot of different noises, and they had a lot of odd sounds. And they would ask her, what did she think that was? Had anyone called in and said this? Had anyone called and said that? They wanted to know if they had experienced the same thing, because there was just at least a little thing they thought it was big, whether it was or not. Just nervous about it. And Mary would comfort them and tell them things, take care of them.
Do you remember that stuff happening when you were younger? Like these beeps and weird. It's kind of, because that's almost like Mothman's weird, but that's almost weird too. Just all these electrical disturbances. Do you remember that? And if you do, can you tell me about kind of remembering just the weirdness of all that, and tell me what was going on with the electrical problems?
And I didn't have a lot of equipment to be different at that time. I don't even think I had a phone at that time, and I didn't pay much attention to the noises and stuff. I worked all the time and was just young and too young to think about it being. We didn't think about it being dangerous or scary, or we were just at that age.
But a lot of people were reporting that type of stuff, right? Strange noises, beeps, electrical hums, problems with TV. Things like that. Was that kind of like frequent conversation that was going on? A lot of people were having the same problem. It was kind of like talk about. Is that
everybody would get together and talk about what was different at their house, or what happened freaky, or what happened on their way to work, or something with their car. Or that was the great conversation. Least little thing, they was paranoid about it or wanted to discuss it and to see if it was different, or see if anyone else had went through the same experience. And they were having hums on their electric and different things. Of course, our phones wasn't up to power like they are now. So they was having, they didn't work part of the time, and they heard squeaky noises on them. And
can you list a few more of those type of things? Like what are some of the problems that people were having with
the main problems that I heard that people had was that their phone didn't work part of the time. It had a real shrill noise. Their lights would go off and on. Their electric wasn't up to power. And they would hear noises outside the house. It just a lot of different things happened at that time.
So one more question about Mary Hyre. How was Mary Hyre viewed by the community during that time? Could she be trusted? Could people who were enduring these kind of amazing experiences go to her in faith, knowing that they wouldn't be judged poorly?
Mary Hyre was a real trusting person. I think everybody in the community trusted her and would go to her and tell them what they had to say, and tell her their secrets and things that they had experienced. And they had no worries about where it would go. Mary Hyre would keep it to herself. She was an aspect in the community.
Can I talk to you a little bit about the Silver Bridge?
A little bit.
I guess, can you just, for someone who doesn't know, what had happened? December 15th, 1967. Tell me a little bit about the bridge, this history, the tragedy.
On December the 15th of 67, I was working at G.C. Murphy's. I went up to check out at 5 till 5, and the lights went off. And found out later the Silver Bridge had fell. I told someone the bridge just doesn't fall. It doesn't happen like that. And I found out later that my husband and my son was on
it. We'll go on.
I can't talk about
That's okay. We'll go. No problem. You want a tissue? You sure? Are you okay? You want some water or something?
Yeah, I'll get a drink and I'll be fine.
Are you okay?
Okay.
Good to go?
Yeah.
We're almost done.
Okay.
Oh. Okay. So Mothman, it started quite some time ago, in '66, and it's been quite a long time. Regarding, it's never been solved. Do the people of Point Pleasant still today want answers to this? Are they still kind of looking for some type of answer? And do you, in your opinion, do you think they deserve one? It's been so long. A lot of people have been through so many things and seen so many strange things. After all this time, this mystery has gone on for so long. Do people still want answers today, and do you think they deserve them?
Today, to find out about Mothman or what it was or what the myth was, I'm not sure if people would like it solved or not. Some people probably would like it solved, but I think it would be disappointing to a lot of people. They couldn't look and search and come down to go to the TNT area. If it was found out that it was something that wasn't there, or maybe it wasn't a bird, or it was not here no more, I think there'd be so many people disappointed, because we have lots of people come to go to the TNT area to look for it. I think if it was solved, it would be disappointing.
In your opinion, again, you have such a unique perspective because you were here for it. What do you think the meaning and purpose of all this was?
I'm not sure why the Mothman was here, or even the UFOs. My opinion was why that the Mothman was so big. I figured he was just a normal bird, and was in the TNT area, had drank out of the water and ate the animals that was then maybe had radiation in because of what was stored in the TNT area. But I don't know if that's why the men in black were here. We've always thought that.
It's a good point.
That's always been our theory. A lot of us has always thought that.
Because of all the chemicals.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about the Mothman Festival. It's kind of strange, but it's kind of like almost like a happy ending to a degree with the story, where a lot of bad things have happened. But now today, there's the Mothman Festival, and it's kind of nice because it's kind of like taking something bad and making it something to celebrate. People, to bring people and to kind of people get together and share stories. And
we have a Mothman Festival now, and it probably does make a happy ending to Mothman. We have people come from overseas. They come from probably every state in the union. They normally come in on a Friday and just sort of sit around out on the street and meet people that they only see once a year, and they'll tell each other their story, and someone else will tell them theirs. We have speakers the next day that tell a lot of things that they have researched and come up with. And we do our hayride out through the Mothman territory, and everybody has a real good time. They look forward to it every year. Jeff and I do the festival together, and then we have the Mothman Museum now open, which is going very well. We're real pleased with it.
I guess, again, like a happy ending to a degree, where it kind of, it brings people to this community that probably would have never ended up here otherwise. Can you talk a little bit about that? How, even though Mothman, it's kind of been known for this kind of cryptic, bad type of time in Point Pleasant's history, today it's celebrated through the Mothman Festival, and it actually does a lot of good in the community because it brings different and interesting people here and some of the positive aspects of it.
Mothman's been really good for us. I always tell everybody Mothman's helped me again whenever different people come in. A lot of our customers and a lot of our tourism is here just on account of Mothman, looking around. He's been really good for this area. And it is a happy ending to Mothman, whether he's here or he's not, that the things that he brings us, the things that we do, like with the festival and the museum and the tourists. And we meet so many interesting people from so many different places that we would have never met if it hadn't been for Mothman. If we hadn't had a Mothman, we wouldn't have had those people here because they were interested in something like that. So they probably wouldn't have come otherwise. And we've had them from all over. It's been really interesting. I love talking to the people.
Great. I think that's all the questions I have for you. We talked about so much stuff. You did awesome. Is there anything about Mothman or the TNT plan or anything you think that's important that I missed that, you'd like to talk about or say? Any important facts or points that you think talk about that I missed?
Can't think of any.
You know what? Before we go, if I don't get a chance to talk to your sister, can you just tell me a little bit about what happened, what she saw? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Mm-hmm.
First sighting?
My sister and some friends are up in the TNT area. They were having a bonfire keg party. And I guess they were all sitting around, heard this big noise, and they jumped up and ran, said Mothman, and wasn't there. So then they sat back down, went on telling their tales around the bonfire and was having a good time, and heard a noise and ignored it. And whenever they looked up, there he was with the big red eyes. So I asked my sister, I said, can you tell me what it really looks like? I have a lot of camera crews and I never got to see him. And she said, you know what? She said, anything I seen was them big, red, bloody looking eyes. She said, like it's on Jeff's book. She said, because we didn't hang around to see the body. So when we seen them eyes, we knew what it was. We were out of there.
Tell me, you yourself never seen Mothman, but your sister did. And tell me that really quickly. So,
I have never seen a Mothman, but my sister did. And she said anything that she could tell me was it had big, red, bloody looking eyes, that she didn't get a chance to see the body because she didn't hang around long enough to do so.
Good. That's fine. That's fine.
For more information about our program, or to find out where you can watch the original documentary film or purchase a limited edition signed DVD copy, please visit www.eyesofthemothman.com.